Ukraine watched for one mistake, Valdai, then collapsed the battlefield.
Rush. They didn't fire early. They didn't reveal a single position. They waited. At exactly 7:40 a.m. on the outer edge of Donetsk's western approaches, the battlefield went quiet. Not the calm of safety, but the kind of silence that feels engineered. Wheat fields stood still. No warning shots, no artillery prep, just empty land and time. Then, Russia made its move. Without hesitation, a division-level armored surge rolled forward, a force built not for probing, but for collapse. 50 T-80 tanks, each valued near $3 million. 40 BTR armored carriers, roughly $1 million apiece. Nearly 1,200 infantry, pouring out of what Russia believed was an abandoned Ukrainian position. Above them, 60 suicide drones, metallic warheads screaming downward like rain. This wasn't pressure. This was a breakthrough attempt, designed to rip open Ukraine's defensive belt and punch west. Engines roared, tracks chewed the soil, steel advanced with confidence. What Russia didn't see was that the battlefield had already been finished. Ukraine's first move was silence. Days earlier, Ukrainian intelligence had detected the buildup: satellite passes, drone shadows, logistics patterns. Ukraine knew where the column would move, and more importantly, how fast. So they didn't deploy tanks, they didn't countermass, they planted the ground. Beneath those wheat fields, under fake farm roads and carefully shaped escape corridors, Ukraine embedded more than 4,200 anti-tank mines. Each device cost a few $100s. Each one was capable of destroying a vehicle worth millions. For hours, nothing moved. The ground waited. Then the lead tank crossed the line. A T-90, nearly $4 million, rolled onto a patch of earth that looked freshly leveled, smoothed by Ukrainian farmers just 2 nights earlier. The explosion was violent. The turret didn't crack, it launched, flying more than 100 feet into the air. That blast wasn't meant to stop the column. It was the signal. The minefield woke up. In seconds, secondary mines began triggering down the formation. Blast after blast chained forward like falling dominoes. Soil, fire, steel. What had been a flawless advance for the first 3 minutes fractured instantly. BTRs swerved sideways as the ground erupted beneath them. Tracks snapped, wheels lifted. Crews bailed out into smoke and shock. The escape lanes Russia trusted, wide, clean corridors that looked untouched, were bait. Delayed trigger mines waited patiently, activating only after the 3rd or 4th vehicle passed. The first carrier rolled through, the second followed, the third detonated, flipping sideways. The 4th hit the second charge, exploding into a fireball that sealed the corridor shut. In seconds, the exit became a burning funnel. Panic spreads faster than fire. Drivers tried to reverse. Tracks ground uselessly against debris. APCs collided. Infantry broke formation, sprinting through wheat fields that suddenly turned hostile. Shockwaves swallowed them mid-run. From above, Ukrainian drones hovered, not striking yet, just watching, marking, counting. The explosions didn't stop the Russians. They pushed them deeper. Smoke rolled across the fields, masking movement, confusing depth perception, distorting radio calls. Inside that chaos, Ukraine activated Phase 2. Cheap drones, expensive thinking. Small FPV drones, each costing around $800, skimmed inches above the soil. Their role wasn't to destroy armor directly, it was to think for the minefield. One by one, they slipped beneath disabled vehicles, detonating secondary charges buried deeper in the earth. Each blast multiplied the destruction already tearing through the column. At the same time, a separate reconnaissance drone locked onto something far more valuable: the Russian command vehicle, a mobile node controlling the entire advance. As it attempted to reroute the convoy toward what looked like a clear lane, 2 FPV drones dove straight into the cabin. The explosion shredded antennas, radios, and command systems, scattering debris into the sky. Just like that, command was gone. Formations without orders don't maneuver, they unravel. And the Russians were about to learn that the most dangerous part of the trap hadn't even been triggered yet. Because beyond the smoke, Beyond the mines, beyond the drones, Ukraine was preparing the phase that would finish everything. The moment the Russian command vehicle vanished in flames, the battlefield crossed a point of no return. Orders stopped flowing, radios filled with static. What remained of the armored column wasn't advancing anymore, it was reacting, and reaction is fatal inside a prepared trap. The kill box opens. From nearly 12 miles away, Ukrainian artillery crews were already in position. Coordinates had been pre-registered weeks earlier. Every grid square, every likely choke point, every escape route Russia might try to use. This wasn't improvisation, this was choreography. The first M177 howitzers, each roughly $3 million, fired in unison. 155mm shells screamed overhead and slammed into the center of the trapped formation. The ground buckled. Each impact punched the earth open like a volcanic strike, turning wheat fields into waves of flame and debris. Before the smoke settled, a second battery joined in. Excalibur GPS-guided rounds, costing nearly $70,000 per shell. They didn't scatter, they selected. One round vaporized a disabled BTR, another struck a fuel truck. The explosion sent a fireball hundreds of feet into the air, painting the sky orange. Above it all, Ukrainian reconnaissance drones hovered, cold, steady, unblinking. Every second they corrected fire in real time. When Russian infantry tried regrouping near a tree line, infrared markers appeared, and a rapid burst from a mobile artillery unit erased the position instantly. The drones weren't supporting the artillery, the drones were commanding it. Steel turns into wreckage. Every attempt to escape drove Russian vehicles deeper into the kill box. Tanks reversed into burning hulks, APCs jammed narrow lanes, crews abandoned vehicles that cost more than entire villages. Smoke climbed thousands of feet, choking visibility and killing communication. What started as a mechanized assault now looked like a collapsing storm of steel and fire. Within minutes, the truth became unavoidable. The minefield had trapped them, the drones had blinded them, the artillery was finishing them. Phase 4. The battlefield collapses inward. Then Ukraine did something Russia didn't expect. They sent in infantry, not as massed waves, but as precision strike teams. From tree lines, from abandoned grain warehouses, from storm drains cut beneath farmland, Ukrainian soldiers emerged with purpose. Javelin missiles worth nearly $200,000, NLAW launchers at $40,000, Carl Gustav systems slung across their backs. Motorbike teams burst forward, two-man crews weaving through craters at 40 miles per hour. Fire, disappear, reposition, strike again. A javelin arced upward, then plunged into the weakened roof of a T-80, turning it into a rolling fireball. Moments later, an NLAW team fired from behind a collapsed barn, splitting a stalled BTR in half. Ukraine wasn't advancing, they were compressing the battlefield. Leadership dies, chaos lives. Desperate to regain control, the Russian brigade commander, Major Gregory, attempted to move his command convoy across a shallow riverbed to reconnect with scattered units. He never made it. A loitering Ukrainian drone dove straight into his vehicle. The explosion flipped the truck onto its roof, killing the general instantly. On Moscow, he was still giving orders. On the battlefield, command was gone. Recovery units rushed in. They were destroyed. Rescue columns followed. They were ambushed. Calls for air support went unanswered. Ukrainian electronic warfare teams had jammed the skies. To the soldiers trapped inside the kill zone, it felt like shouting into a void. So they ran. Some dragged wounded comrades, others abandoned them. Men dove into canals, pressed into drainage ditches, vanished into smoke with no direction left. From above, the battlefield looked unreal. Nearly 5 miles of farmland had turned into a graveyard of steel. Black smoke columns rose so high they were visible on weather satellites. An entire brigade dismantled. The second wave makes it worse. Moscow still pushed forward. Fresh armor rolled in. Fuel convoys followed. They drove straight into another layer of the trap. Switchblade drones struck first. One fuel truck detonated, lighting the horizon like sunrise and turning the eastern edge of the battlefield into a wall of fire. Then Ukraine's 92nd Assault Brigade surged from sunflower fields on the flanks, cutting into what little cohesion remained. HIMARS rockets sealed bridges and farm roads. TB2 drones dropped glide bombs into retreating columns. The lid closed. In under an hour, the second wave collapsed just as violently as the first. The lesson that can't be ignored. By noon, the outcome was undeniable. The Russian 5th Tank Brigade no longer existed as a fighting force. Dozens of tanks and carriers lay shattered. Hundreds of soldiers were killed, captured, or missing. Ukraine held its ground without losing a single tank. This wasn't just a battlefield defeat. It was the collapse of an idea. That massed armor could overpower preparation, that numbers could beat precision, that drones were support tools, not decision makers. Modern warfare had rewritten the rules. And in the smoke that followed, Ukrainian soldiers were seen guiding wounded Russian prisoners away from the wreckage. A reminder that wars are won with strategy, the humanity shown within them. If you want clear, no-hype breakdowns of how modern wars are really being fought, subscribe now. We don't chase headlines here. We explain what others miss. Question for you. Do armored columns still have a future in drone-dominated wars, or are we watching the end of an era? Drop your answer in the comments.